Here we go. All right, everybody, just relax. Sit down and relax. If you think this is the podcast, if you think you've tuned in to the Gen X Talks podcast where my wife beats me up for an hour, no. You'll have to come back. That's not what this one's all about. These are the ones of substance. These are the ones I enjoy doing. These are the ones that make a difference and matter in the real world. So if you're looking for that one, skip and go to the next one until you find it. Now, for those of you that wanted to be here, for those of you that like and enjoy these interviews we've been doing, I have one for you today. Don't even pretend you don't know who this is. She goes by the name Sassy Liberty. She's got 180,000 followers on Facebook, almost 290,000 on Instagram. She's on X. She's on TikTok. She's on YouTube. Her name is Danille. Now say it for me so I don't screw it up.
Danille DePerry.
Danille DePerry. Now, see, a trained broadcast professional would have got that right. But the part you don't know is that we practiced it before, and I was only batting about 50-50. So I thought, I'll play it safe. Danille, I can't thank you enough for making time to talk with us here today. Tell you, I've been a fan for a long time, and I got to be fair with you. Before we even get into who you are and how you got here, I came to know you through those news updates. Those little news updates, okay. I thought those were the most, I looked for those all the time. When they came across my feed, I'd watch them 2 and 3 times because they were informative. You caught me up on things. And there's like, if I missed something, if I didn't see something, I could always count on you scrolling through my feed and there it would come up. I love those. Now, but before we begin on where we're at now, let's back up. People would like to know, where you came from. Where were you born? Where were you raised? And then we'll get into how you got to this position, but a little bit about you, as much as you're willing to share.
Wow. Yes. It's like, this is your life. Back in the day.
That's right.
Yeah. Just have that flashback. But honestly, I guess we can go back to a wee child. I was born in New Jersey and was there till I was about, 8 or 9. And then my parents had the burb to move to Florida. And that's where my mother is originally from. But we went to like the furthest south was to like the Florida Keys. Yeah. My father was pretty much lived his whole life in New Jersey. So the thought of a Florida living was obviously something for him. So we went all the way down to the Florida Keys. I was there till I was about, I want to say it was I ended my junior year, 17, and then we moved to Central Florida and lived there for, doesn't matter really. I can't remember how long, but sure. Enough times. Then we are now here in South Carolina. And that's like, kind of my father calls us like halfbacks because we're like halfway back, up there. But no, I would, I love up north. It's beautiful. I love the colder weather. I think I like that more than the heat. But I'm not going to say Florida is not in my veins. We have salt water flowing through us. We always are, we ache for Florida still in a lot of ways, but not the hurricanes. No. We went through Hurricane Andrew. We went through all of them. And I'm just like, no. Irma. I was in Irma for a while, because I moved back down there. So that's another segue. But yeah, so then got married, have a child, and away we went.
So you get settled in South Carolina. How many years start passing before you start becoming interested in the internet, the social media side of the internet?
Yeah, I knew that like that was actually going to probably be like, how did you get there? And I'm like I was thinking that as you were talking.
Well, and a lot of people talk about how they got into it just watching. They'll describe, well, I used to like this person, watch that person. Well, how did that start for you?
Yeah, that's so weird because my parents had always been like kind of on the political spectrum, but conservative,
Sure.
honestly. My parents were never the hippies, even though they're in the boomer, market,
Yeah.
obviously. But they were never hippies. We were just talking about that this morning, my mom and I. We're like, yeah, they've never were into that like crazy thing, but they were more conservative. I'll put that down because it's more of a libertarian stance now in a lot of ways, if you look at it. But
Yeah.
my mom was always a very big questioner about things, always really involved in like conservative things. And my dad is a rebel rouser. So anything that would go
Really?
kind of like, yeah, he's a bit of a rock and roller still. So he always was like questioning things, questioning the system and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
kind of was raised in that world.
Sure.
So I can honestly say I was never brought up in a home that was not already talking about politics.
Okay.
Like that's kind of where I was. And conservative, my father's a history buff. Uh Loves history. You could just shout out a date and he'll tell you if there was a war on it, what happened. I
Right.
mean, like he's that kind of guy. So yeah, it was always that way. But when the social media aspect came in, was I guess like Facebook, the birth of it. I
Sure.
guess you
Yeah.
could say that. Facebook changed the game. I mean, you remember MySpace. I mean, we all were on, I mean,
Well, it didn't.
everybody had MySpace.
But it wasn't always politics, though. In the beginning, it was just kind of a
No,
hodgepodge of everything,
everything.
and
Yeah.
so I didn't pay it. Well, my kids were on MySpace. My kids wanted to
Okay.
be on Facebook. My wife kind of did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I kind of got involved a little bit in that. I'd watch a lot of YouTube videos when YouTube came out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I was a keen observer. That's where I went. So,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
who did you watch in the beginning when TikTok came out in 2018? I think it was, and
That's
then
okay, I was gonna say, when did that come out? Yeah.
everybody started to follow along. YouTube or Facebook came out with Reels the next year. Instagram
Yeah.
Reels. Facebook came out with Shorts. Everybody trying to capitalize on the 1 minute videos inside TikTok. Everybody ran along. That's kind of the era when I see a lot of people like us that began to get really interested. Much more than just communicating on Facebook. It was kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, this is rolling, and I'm scrolling through things now. So who kind of do you remember back in the beginning where you were interested in watching, and not necessarily politics? It could be the
Yeah.
alligator guy.
No, exactly. And actually, just to rewind, being on Facebook, that's where I started being on my Facebook. I was before all this began, before I started doing my news things on, on Instagram, I had been a political writer for
Ah,
years. That's why I said like Facebook. Facebook was like when it came up, we had this little group and so many of the big pages and names that you see. I mean, I didn't know them personally or whatever, but we were all kind of in that vacuum,
right.
such as Matt Walsh, Allie B. Stuckey. I remember all of their pages when we were all coming up, and so many people. And then in 2018, um, that's when there was a massive wipeout, if anybody remembers that. In 2018, there was like the huge conservative voice just wiped out, and I was one of them
Yeah.
at that time. So that's kind of like where it all like did, because I was political writing. We had a show on Freedom Daily from we did that with me and my best friend, Prissy Holly at the time. We did a show. We did all of these things, writing about 5, 6 pieces of news every day. And then
Wow.
we were just zapped. We lost over 1 million followers. It was awful. It was depressing. So
Wow.
yes, so
Yeah.
that brings you right into the TikTok world
Well, and that's a
where,
lot of work you put into
yeah,
that too, to have it gone just
yeah,
because the powers that be decided what
yeah.
was going to be right. Yeah, that's tough.
It was tough. It was like, okay, 1 minute we were there, and then the next minute was like literally logging onto Facebook, and it was like we couldn't get on.
Mm.
And it was a little bit of a depression. So that does bring you right into that TikTok. It wasn't politics that got me at first. It was like you said, just watching the ridiculous. It was like a letdown depression. Like
Yeah.
we got wiped. Now what do you do? We're not allowed to do picking up steam. I know it was Musically before that. I can't remember, but besides that, there goes my Gen X brain. I'm just like, yeah, I got nothing. I got nothing. I could tell you a lyric from like something else, but nah, I don't know dates. But yeah, so that's when I started getting involved in it, was just making ridiculous videos.
Well, I want to read you something here. Now, I did a little bit of homework on you. I've been following you for a long time, but I did some homework. I don't know if you've ever used Grok or Chat GPT to look up yourself, because they give you.
No.
I'm going to read you something from Grok, and you tell me when I'm done.
That's scary.
You tell me if this fits. Sassy Liberty is the online persona, also known as Danielle Marie, because they added your other name in there.
Yeah.
A conservative content creator, commentator, and small business owner. She presents herself as a bold, faith-driven, no-nonsense style, often described as delivering the news, truth, and culture hot takes with plenty of sass. Her content mixes politics, current events, Christian values, and practical advice on ditching woke brands for American-made clean living alternatives. That was Grok. That's what Grok had to say about you.
Man, Grok, you feel like a what you call? I just went to the proctologist there. I mean, what the?
Well, there's a couple things in there. I noticed that too. See, in my notes, my personal notes matched up with Grok. You're not afraid at all to show your faith in what's going on. You do that a lot. You weave that into the things you're saying. So I like that. I really appreciate when people aren't afraid to put it either out front or weave it into their commentating. Where'd your faith begin, and what is your faith?
Well, I guess where it began, my mother, Christian values in our home, growing up. And it's just always been such a rudder for me. My Christian faith and belief in him. He has been there for me seriously, I just thank him for my life, honestly. Being in a domestic, I had a domestic violence situation. His hedge of protection was over me. And I know it was like, I don't know, it sounds kind of like sometimes people say things and it sounds like trite, but like I knew his protection was over me for something else.
No, I got that.
Like kind of like you're not done yet. And I decided that was a great time for me to, use my voice, but definitely I'm a Christian. I'm like more of a non-denominational. I don't know if that, like a lot of people,
no, I know
everybody.
You're at
that. Yeah. Everybody always is like, oh, are you this or are you that? And I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know all of the denominations, and there's too many sects and there's too many branches. I just know I believe in Jesus Christ and he's my Lord and Savior, and that's it. Boom. And that's my faith. And I look things, a lot of it with a biblical lens, because everything is so, it makes sense. Like to me, it's logical.
Well, it's you definitely, if you don't feel it in your heart, what your faith is, what you're believing, it doesn't count. When you say something like, well, I was in a bad situation, but I knew God was looking out for me, and that sounds trite. It sounds repetitive to some people, but only because other people feel it and say it too. It happens so often, that's the same thing. So,
exactly. And I know that. That's why it's like, it's weird to say. And I understand that people can take it like, well, what about, so-and-so, yada, yada, that didn't happen. And, I don't have the answers for everything. I just know my personal, I can't describe it. So being in that situation, and I also just something that I feel like to share, and because a lot of people aren't alone in it.
Then let's get to the meat of all this, what everyone's waiting for here. We've got how you ended up in South Carolina. We understand your faith. You had a political background growing up and a historical background growing up. Facebook came in and wiped everybody out along with everybody else. They really put the choke on all the conservative channels. Everybody did.
And they thought we were Russian agents too. Isn't that cool?
Oh, yeah. Well, I had a badge. You used to say, cancel me because,
I was just saying, remember?
Yeah. So you go along, then all of a sudden TikTok comes along. It starts exploding. All the kids want to be TikTok famous. A lot of pieces are moving around the board. When did you decide to step into the limelight in this area? Because you'd already done something before, but you got canceled. What made you start up again to begin the channel you're at now with Sassy Liberty?
I think it was kind of after, I want to say Biden. Um, it was during that time. I was like with COVID, the COVID era.
Sure.
Obviously, we were all, here. And I did notice that a lot of people were starting to question things because prior to that, there was not that much.
Right.
I hate to say it, but as like we were kind of like the conspiracy tinfoil hat people, like way before. And then in COVID, I remember seeing so many people start going, like, what? Like, this is weird. And that kind of energized me in a
Really?
little bit of a way because I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like I didn't feel like I was in this, like just yelling into a void anymore.
Right.
Everybody was starting to say things and starting to question certain things. And that was just like, as I
But
was scrolling.
but you still had to be a little apprehensive because
Oh, yeah.
the left was still in charge of everything. Twitter
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't let you post things. YouTube
Nope.
was pulling things down left and right. I mean,
Yep.
you're choosing to get into that. It's not like you said, well, I was going to make videos about giraffes and I got excited about giraffes. I knew everybody would let me post giraffes. No, you're starting your thought process
Giraffes.
is right about the time when you pick something else. That was the wrong thing to get started with was
Yeah.
conspiracies. But you
Yeah,
did
I
it anyway.
know.
You went for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I did. That's so weird. Yeah, I just was like, I got excited. I saw like people starting to question. And then since I had, and like you as know, and a lot of people who were posting back then, we had a background. So I kind of knew how to um word things
Right.
so a little bit safer. And that's what I would always tell people, like, you guys, you can't go right out there and say things. You have to learn to be almost like, using your little orphan Annie, decoder ring to be able to say things online. You have to be able to put them in like little cryptic, little,
Well,
crypt way of speaking.
you've done that
Yeah.
because scrolling through your pages, um, very rarely do you just come out and blatantly point a finger and say something. A lot of times you kind of skirt around the issue sarcastically, pointing out, well, golly gee, I wonder why this is
Hmm.
this way. And it
Hmm.
makes people, they kind of take this is the best way for me to describe the politics and the things in the United States or around the world, the way you present them. This is the best way for me. And you may disagree.
No, that's
You,
fine.
you say things in a way that you lead people down 9 steps of, well, isn't this interesting? This person said this, and here we are. And oh, well, doesn't that make sense? Doesn't it make sense to you? And you get
Yeah.
people to the 9th step, and you
Hmm.
leave it there, and then they take the 10th step themselves. The last step, you
Hmm.
let them take themselves and go, yeah, that guy's an idiot. You don't say it.
Yeah.
You get them right to that
Hmm.
point and let them say it if they feel it. Or, that's
Yeah.
not right. Or that
Hmm.
doesn't. You let them take that last step. And when you do that, you're giving sarcasm, you're giving some humor, you play some music with the things you say and do, but you don't very rarely do you come out and point at someone and get in their face with it. You're like, you leave people that last opening. I take it. I take that
Yeah.
last step every time I watch something. I do. And so I'm not sure how crafted that is. It seems more natural coming from you. But I love the
Yeah.
way you present the politics without, hitting anybody over the head.
Yeah, I never have been that person to be like somebody who's like just wanting to smash somebody, just not me. I like to do exactly what you just said. I like to just lead you enough to be able to come up with your own idea.
Yeah,
And when I say lead somebody, I'm just like, here's the information. What do you think
that's
about
right.
this? Instead of saying, okay, I read this article and this is why it's wrong. No,
Right.
I don't want to tell you why it's wrong because those are my ideas. I'm just going to give you the information and I want you to come up with your own critical thinking skills and like try to like muscle that way of why this guy is making no sense or why
Yeah.
this law doesn't make sense.
Well,
People, we
and
be, we
And
become so like lackadaisical with that.
yeah, and that's where your sarcasm comes in when you
Yeah.
kind of nod and you look in there, it makes people think a little bit. All right, so go back to the beginning. So you're trying this channel, you want to you're itching to do something again. It's already in your blood, but you
Yes,
picked a
yes, I was itching.
bad angle. Do you pick conspiracies and going up against people there? In the beginning of social media, you could not pick right and wrong. Back then,
No.
everybody had to get along with everybody. Everybody's opinions were right. Everybody's opinions were their own, and they had their own truth. God, I got so sick of hearing people's own truth.
Oh God.
And
Yes.
and there you were forging your way forward. First of all, what I'm going to ask you something. What made you start doing the dancing with the music and the news updates? And I'll tell you why I like that, because it's not distracting. I thought for sure the first time I saw you doing that, I thought, okay, this is just going to be, I'm going to be watching her dance and jiggle. And it wasn't. It was a perfect music with a perfect background. And it was just enough to keep my attention to read the words. And then I wanted to see it again. So many people can't connect that way. And you did. I love every one of those. Where'd you come up with that?
Thank you. Okay, that's so funny because literally that was after, like you said, coming into this and everything I wanted to share was like being like smacked down. And you know what I mean? And even though I was working my way and some things would start growing and then I would get like smacked down and I'd be like, oh, son of a bee. But I had made the comment to somebody, it's like almost you have to do an interpretive dance to get the news out. And that was just like an off the mark flip it. And I just said, oh, that would be funny. So my first video literally was just like, I think it was like Tchaikovsky, and I was just in the background, like being ridiculous ballet.
Right.
Obviously I'm not a ballerina, but just kind of like just being absolutely absurd.
Yeah. And
I just put the stories or articles that I had wrote that day, like some of the ones that I had worked on. And I just put it up there. And and my dogs were running around. I think there's like in the background, you could see my dog Josie taking a deuce. I mean, like, it was just like, I didn't even care because I figured again, nobody's going to see this because nothing was getting seen. And lo and behold, it went. I'm not joking. And I went, and I thought it was like, honestly, a fluke. Like I did. I thought that was just like because it was, I don't know, like it just hit the algorithm at the right time, or whatever. Yeah. But I guess not.
Well, there's something I've learned in social media is that you can hit a home run or you can hit a viral video on something funny or clever, and then you can spend the next 3 years chasing that, trying to duplicate it again. But the other type of video that picks up and goes viral or just does well, for a matter of speaking, is one that people really enjoyed and they're liking it. Like, well, I can remember videos that are super funny, super entertaining, and I want to follow, I want to like, but I don't remember their names anymore because they didn't do it again. Yeah. But on the ones like yours where you're like, okay, I'd like to see more of this little dancing, this with the music and the news. I'd like to, and then you come back with another one and another one. Now, they may not get 10 million views, but they're going to be solid every time. Exactly. And that's a better one to catch in the beginning, I think, than a huge one that's just super, super viral for being a one-off. I'd like the consistency, the heavy consistency, which you did right away. And
that's it. I want a solid base hit, not a home run. Right. You know what I mean? That they get on base. And that's how I look at it.
How'd you do in the beginning with negative comments? Because we've all done that in the beginning, like the first time, our first videos, our first month out there, and then the negative comments come in and everybody seems to take them differently.
I think because I had already been, had posted and already received, death threats in the past or, whatever, like mean comments. I mean, I don't know how many, men get the same things, but people can be pretty nasty, like, about making fun of your looks, you know what I mean? Or, oh, how you talk. We don't like the way you do this, or, oh, you're this weight, or whatever. After a while, you kind of look at it as, for me, if they really aren't putting you down for the content, if they're only coming after you on those kind of things, means I'm actually hitting a home run there.
Yeah.
Obviously they've got nothing to say, so they're going to go after something else. So to me, and if anybody like you who's been on, posting on, whatever, that pushes engagement. Like the more negative people are, I mean, of course you don't want all negative, but that pushes the comments and people start looking, and it pushes it in the feed, and then people are going to see it and because it's showing it as like some people like it. What the hell? Go for it. That's me.
There's a guy I talked to one time years ago, and he said, he was going into the premise of activity breeds activity, which is, of course, is an old, that's an old business thing. Activity breeds activity. If you got an automotive shop and you have a bunch of cars out front with the hoods open, people think that you're good and they bring their cars in. They see the activity. So, but he kind of translated that to social media, and he goes, a lot of people come into the comment section and they kind of have a feeling on how they feel, but they're not sure. But if they see a bunch of negative comments, they jump on it. Yeah, that was stupid. Yeah. But if you have a bunch of good comments, they like, that was pretty good. Then they leave a good comment. So what he had told me, he says, in the beginning, he says, when you do your videos, just monitor the comments for the first couple hours. He goes, just delete all the bad ones. And then after a little while, when it's filled with mostly good ones, let it go, because there's going to be more bad, more good. But he goes, it's always better if the first, 20 comments they see or something are good. At least it puts that in their mind. If they came there to hate on you, they're going to hate on you anyway. But he goes, so many people come there on the fence that really not feeling one way or the other. They're just going to read the comments, and they build how they feel based on what they read. He goes, so just spend a little time getting rid of the negative ones, then leave it alone. Let it go. Let it choose its course. I took that, and my son did too. And we started doing that because my son Briggs, he was 15 when he wanted to be TikTok famous when he started our channel. Yes. And the negative comments killed him. He was crying. He was upset.
It's hard.
He really went through a learning curve for months and months. But then we got to that one, like, delete the bad ones, leave the good ones, and then move on to your next thing. And at least you're setting a tone for that video. But everyone's got a story on their beginning. Yours may go back to when you posted before, like you said. This time around, you already kind of had an idea.
Yeah, but it was kind of now it's like thick skin. But in the beginning. I was so shocked how people could be just so rude. And when you just said, like, your son, 15 years old, that really just ticks me off in general. Because growing up, we didn't have that. Obviously, if people were mean, there's rumors or stuff like that. But you would maybe deal with maybe 1 to 5 people dealing with this with you, and you knew them.
Yeah.
And you still could kind of handle it out on the playground, so to speak, or squash it and the thing. But today, no. And it shows, like, just these kids are being bullied by perfect strangers. And I'm just thinking to myself, I always said this in the beginning too, is if you got nothing nice to say, don't say anything.
Yeah. Well, that's our generation.
Yeah.
And going with that,
shut up.
You said you'd have to deal with 1 to 5 people. That's right. Even if you have one idiot, one bully, one guy mouthing off, you kind of knew who it was in the neighborhood or in school, and you knew he was doing it to everybody.
Yes.
But on social media, you feel very judged and like it's just you.
Oh yeah.
You don't know that same idiot goes to every channel and does that. You just know he's doing it to you.
Yeah. And you feel kind of like you start getting this, like, into your head, or because they'll, like, message you or like you said in the comments. And now, like you said, and it is thing, like, if I get a bunch of negative comments, like in a line, I just block people and delete them.
Sure.
I was the person who never blocked and deleted, but I did see, I saw somebody say something like, if this is not the person that you want on your channel or your page, and this is somebody you wouldn't want to, like, really work with, get rid of them.
Yeah.
And I thought, and it was like an allowance, like, oh, okay. Like, oh, I don't want this person. Like every comment you say something completely stupid. I don't want to see it anymore.
Well, now we're talking about how I got involved with your channel was those news, the stories, the news stories, but you do post you repost other people's things too. And sometimes you comment, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you'll take a news clipping or something and post it there with you in the background, just kind of let it go. Who do you follow that you look for, like you know their content aligns with you, and you would there's some people you would clearly not repost, but how do you pick what you do with that, and who's your favorite to follow now?
That's so, oh my gosh. See, I didn't realize everybody could see that, but the reposting at first. I really, really so I'm over here just like, oh, I'm going to share this. Like, because I'm the type of person, like, I want everybody to win. Like, right. I do. So if I see something and I think it's good, I just repost it because I want more people to see it.
Sure.
And, I'm like, yay, that was funny. So, I'm reposting like cat viral videos. I'm doing all this freaking ridiculous stuff. And people are commenting or messaging and be like, we see what you repost. And I was like, what the frick? And then so I've kind of backed off on that.
Well,
and it showed my elder age there for a minute.
Well, it also makes it look like if someone walks up and goes, hey, what's your channel all about? You're like, well, I think it's pretty clear. No, it's really not, because you're all over the map. There's a cat. There's Niagara Falls. Here's Pluto. And oh, by the way, there's an old Bugs Bunny cartoon here. What's going on?
I'm like, and I always say, welcome to my mind. This is what's in here. I'm like, there's fashion, there's this, there's a movie, there's Marvel, all these things. And it's like all this stuff. So I had to revamp, or not revamp it, but like I fired up my personal account so I can go look at more of my things that I want to look at. Because obviously we're multifaceted human beings. I don't live and breathe and, drink whatever that saying is, politics at all. Like I really don't. I love me some 80s stuff and, our, early 90s and life more. I think it's so much more interesting. But anyway, but I like to follow, well, in the past, Tim Pool, I really liked him in the beginning, but I don't really listen to him a lot anymore. Very strange. I know this is going to sound really weird. There's not a lot of people I listen to. What I typically do is read. I am more of a person who will scroll not the word, I guess, like troll, maybe like that, the news sites all over the place. That is pretty much where I get my thought process. If I see a video that I like, yes, like you said, like I'll put it together or whatever and put it up. But I don't listen to podcasts very often, political things. I don't want to get too much into their thought process because I want to make my thought process.
Yeah, but you have to pick, it does, but you know that you have to get, first of all, you have to get the base story from somewhere. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, and a lot of times, well, and someone who wrote it, you're hoping that they're not interjecting too much of their bias. You just want the facts first. But at the same time, there's so many news agencies that give, they're really not, I'm going to use Fox News as an example because people don't understand this, but every news agency, CNN and MSNBC and Fox News, they have two different departments. They have one called the news desk. They also have their opinion desk. If you listen to Brett Baer, he tries to just give you the news and the facts. If you listen to Sean Hannity or Jesse Waters, they're on the opinion desk. So they're giving you information, but with a complete spin on how they feel about it.
Absolutely.
And I try to tell people you don't understand that. It's like, well, I don't get my news from Sean Hannity. I understand. Did you know he's not a news guy? Yeah. What do you mean? Of course he is. He's on Fox News.
He's an opinion.
He's on the opinion desk. There's two sides to that. So the stuff I see from you, again, you take the facts on things really quickly. Yes. And you don't draw this out for a 30-minute deal. It's very quick, and you lead people down that road and say, okay, now you take that last step. You choose wherever you want to step, but you make it on your own. But you have to get the base story from someplace too.
Yes, and the base story is usually from my reading. Is a lot of school, like I said, a lot of going from news site to news site. Now, it might be my background because of as being a writer,
Yeah.
and working on that I'm able to boil down this, you know what I mean, that what's the crux of this, what they're trying to get out. Because when we did do writing, we'd have to source it 5 different sources. You know what I mean? Not just your initial source, but we'd have to go down, like keep going and finding more and more sources to bring it. And then, like you said, at the end, you could boil it to your opinion.
Right.
But the whole, whatever, I guess the whole article, 3/4 of the article needed to be news.
Yeah, you gotta have the facts of the story before you can base an opinion. So yeah.
Yes. And then at the end, you could say, and this is why I, XYZ feel like this is not a good way. I don't know if you agree, but this is how I'm, coming to part to do it. So for me, it's a lot of reading and a lot of going there. And I use a lot of my old bookmarks from when I would write, and I use a lot of the, still finding new people. Like there's new sites that have popped up all over the place, but there's so many different ways of doing things. And that's why the President's Desk, actually, that's a good one. If you want to look for just news, this is what's happening today.
Okay.
That's a good one. For just straight up news.
Well, let me ask you a question. You brought this up, just popped into my brain right now. So forgive me for being a dumb mechanic in the middle of the desert, but I got a question here. All right. So if you take 10 sites and they basically all have the same 22 facts of a story, they're a little different here and there, but all 10 sites have these 22 facts. Those are probably the core facts. But then you find one over here is wow, they said something about Iran and the Strait and the oil tankers. Nobody else has said that, so I can't verify it. How do you know if they're just making something up, embellishing, or what if they're first? What if they just got it first? What if tomorrow that one nugget is now on the other 10 websites, but you could have had it first if you'd have run with it? How do you know the difference between embellishment, exaggeration, something that may not be true or spun a little bit versus something that's true and you're first? How do you know which is which?
I think there's some part in you where when you've been writing or been that journalistic, kind of, I think you get a spidey sense when something is there. For me, I'll just take that nugget, for instance, what you're saying, and I will put it up into different browsers in Google and start researching it over and over again and just checking
see what you can come up with. Yeah.
What I could come up with.
Sure.
Going even to stuff like Twitter, X, putting that in the search bar, seeing what pops up and populating it from there. Also, what will always protect you is if you could, just by saying, is this not verified, but this is what's something. And I do that a lot. Is it not a verified piece of information, but I did see this on Gateway Pundit, whatever, and so it covers, CYA, making sure that you're covered on that. But then you'll still have pretty good, if it does go off, you're considered still oh, Sassy did post that and did say that. And there's been certain times that's happened. But I always like to source it. And I will so for instance, like you just said, something and I ran with the Strait and I want to post that and I see that that's in the Epoch Times and I use that. I will put that on the source. The source comes from here.
I got you.
I always source it.
Yeah, so, but you're not afraid. You're not afraid to be first on some things though, too.
No, I don't. It's fun. It's like a hunt sometimes. Right. And finding information out. I do like finding information, not just political stuff. I like talking about vaccines, stuff like that.
Sure.
That's very fascinating to me. And I like talking about things that, I don't know, I guess just makes your brain do a little bit more more gymnastics.
They say that people, they write songs for themselves and hope others enjoy them. And I think that's kind of the way you write your stuff. You do news that's interesting to you and you hope other people enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
You're not writing it for them. You're writing it for you.
No. Yeah.
All right.
It's
How
what
many?
what piques my interest during the day. That's what people will ask me. Like, why do you pick that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just saw that and I thought it was cool, so I'm going to share it.
You see, I can see you doing that. Someone walk up and go, "Why did you pick that?" And you're going, "Well, it seemed interesting to me. Was it not interesting to you?"
Yeah. No, you didn't like it.
You didn't like that? What the heck?
How could you not?
I know. Come on. What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? That's our family's motto. Yes. What's wrong with you?
How many of your friends and family like what you're doing, and did you lose any friends and family when you started doing this? Anybody walk away from you?
No.
It happens.
My
it does
family,
happen to people.
Yeah. I think because my family's already been behind me from everything that he did, in the past. So they kind of figured it that I would do it. My daughter might be the only one that is a little cringes at times. But proud of me. But she's so cringing probably, and that's okay. That's what good parenting is.
How much do you get recognized around town at the grocery store, at the gas station? Anybody ever recognize you?
Yeah, that's what's weird. Like, it is weird because I'm over there just like picking up some lettuce, you know what I mean, at the Publix or going to the Walmart to grab some dog food, and somebody's like, "Hey, are you Sassy Liberty?" And it takes me aback. Like, I'm like, yeah. And they'll be like, "Oh, you're taller than I thought." Or, okay.
What do you say to that? Thank you.
Exactly.
I really work on that. I try to be tall every day.
I know. Really working on putting my shoulders back, you see.
I'm glad you noticed, because I pride myself on my tallness. So thank you for noticing.
I just always like, okay. Like, I did it. That one was kind of a weird one I had, or really like your dancing, or we love the news, or, whatever. Actually, and one person, this was funny. One girl that I had met, she was actually, her daughter and my daughter roomed together at college. Never knew. And when I was moving in my daughter into their home, and the woman walked up to me and said, "Are you Sassy Liberty?" And I was like, "Yes." She goes, "Oh my gosh, I love your content. And I follow you, on Instagram." And I thought it was just such a small world. Her daughter and my daughter were close friends, living, and they're from Connecticut. And they're they live in Connecticut, Rhode Island, one of those, northeastern states. And it just, wow, to be recognized from that. So yeah, it happens. Still weird. But it's kind of cool to get that you reach that many people, and
sure,
bringing that much fun to other people, and then they like the music,
and you leave enough of an impression that they remember the face, because there's I don't know, there's thousands that I've either followed or subscribed or watched, but I don't know that I'd know them if I saw them in person. Because they've had a few viral videos that I really enjoyed, thought they were the greatest things ever, but they only had 2 or 3. But someone like you have over 2,200 posts on Instagram alone, and they're so solid. I'll always remember your face if I saw you, I'd know, because it's always there. There's a difference between a viral video and someone who has a solid following like you do.
And that's and I guess I never thought of it, because I've always thought of myself as just I'm just me. You know what I mean? I'm just little Danille who loves to find news. I dance all the time. That's why the dancing kind of sticks, because my family knows that I'm always busting a move somewhere. And like I said, that's why my daughter cringes quite a bit. But but at the same time, it's just fun. And I love finding music, because music has just been a big part of our family. So it brings a lot of joy to find really cool music
and it
bring
fits.
It out to everybody.
You make good choices.
That's what I like to do.
It doesn't distract, which I'm telling you I said it before, I'll say it again.
Thank you.
It's not distracting.
Makes me feel so much better.
Oh, it's solid. I mean, and I'm critiquing it from another social media aspect, going, "Oh my God, why can't I do that?" Because that's great. That's really good.
I love it. I try to find it's so funny. People ask me when you're looking for news stories, do you have a song in mind? And sometimes when I'm finding, when I do the weekly recap, you know what I mean? When I'm finding, I don't ever go in with a motif. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not like that, like I'm going to go in, I want to have Queen,
Right.
for instance, this time. But it's like after I look at them and I'm reading the headlines over and over again, sometimes a lyric will, like pop
Oh,
out.
yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that, like something will come out, or I'll be like, okay, this feels a little like, Sex Pistols, or,
Sure.
this feels like we should use some like, Ramones or stuff like that, or
Yeah.
sometimes I think that the headlines are really heavy so that
Mm.
they need maybe more of a pop-up
Yeah.
fun song,
Yeah.
just like, okay, like balance it, instead of being so
Well,
like into it.
whatever format you're using, don't change
Yeah,
it. If you're going with your
I
gut,
know.
keep recite.
Yeah.
I'm sure you put up a song, go, nope, not that one, and then you're
No.
like, this one, okay,
Yeah.
and you get to where you want. You know what feels right. Don't change
Yeah.
because I really, really enjoy the way the flow.
We
So
like it.
everybody does.
We
Now,
have fun. The dogs like it.
got some serious questions, Danielle. Going to lean in right now. All right, you're in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Need to get your opinion. Lindsey Graham and Mark Lynch. What do you think?
Oh, Lindsey
You're there.
Graham's a frick.
You're
He's
there.
a tool bag. I can't stand Lindsey Graham. I can't stand that man. Lindsey Graham Misty. I don't understand South Carolinians why you cannot just get your crap together.
Well, he's got name
It's like
recognition. People
Yes.
just vote for the name. There is that.
Yes, they do. And people don't get as excited for state and local elections as I would like them to. I harp on that a lot. Like get involved. Like this is something that we want, to you get excited about the general election, but your, state election is like, I think even more important than your general election. Because that's like your country.
Well, you got to get your you got to get
Yeah.
your own house in order. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let me
And
ask you
that'll
this
take care
because
of it.
people will say to me, they'll say, "Listen, I'm not a big fan of Lindsey. I know he moves back to the center and starts voting and talking every time elections come around. I get that.
Yeah.
But their point is a lot of these people have come to me and said, my point about voting for him is he is sitting and chairing on some very powerful committees. And we lose that. If you replaced Lindsey with somebody, you lose that position. You lose that representation at those select committees. So is it worth giving it up, or is it better to try to get him to back where he's supposed to be? Well, what's your opinion? You're there, not me. You're there.
Yeah, no, I look at it as, and I understand that point of view. I do. It's like my sister was a poli-sci graduate major, and we talk about things like this a lot. And like she said, but they're not making any changes. See, everything is still the status quo. So nothing is changing. So yes, we have some powerful committees and we have that. Yay, that's good, but nothing is changing in the better. So sometimes it's worth the shakeup.
Yeah.
I think a shakeup is always good because people get too comfortable. And if he's over there and these powerful committees, and stuff like that, but everything is still not, what I mean?
They're holding it. But you're holding it away from a Democrat being in that position. You don't want a senior Democrat taking that over. So some people are saying, well, he may not be great, but at least he's not that guy, and we're keeping that guy out. I get that. But the other thing too is that he just got Trump's endorsement. At the same time, Trump also endorsed term limits, and he'd be one of them who's gone under Trump's proposed term limits. So I think, like you said, a shakeup is good. I think that's what we're doing in Iran. Someone's finally beating the shit out of him, which for me, my entire life, they've needed that. So go ahead and do it. It's going to shake everything up. There's going to be things that fall to the side. But I think it just needs to happen no matter what. If we apply that to to Lindsey's seat, would you think that Mark Lynch would be a good replacement for him? What do you know about Mark?
I know I'm voting for him. Now, I'm going to be voting for him just because I like that he's a little bit more of a very conservative.
Yes.
But, he leans much more conservative. And I know there's people out there who be like, oh, but he's too right wing and stuff like that. I understand where people can come in very right wing, but then they're going to end up being more towards the center, which I'm okay with center because that's really where we should all be with our politics. We should not be too far, right, too far left. We should be down the middle. The reason why I'm voting for him over Lindsey Graham is I believe, again, again, like the shakeup, like you said with Iran. Yes, maybe, like you said, and like people have good things, it keeps out a powerful Democrat out of these seats or whatever and stuff like that. But if you get somebody in there that is going to shake things up and get things going, that powerful Democrat will eventually get kicked out.
Right.
Because of that. And I think really we need to just get that, not the aggression. I've tried the word like that, woo, back into that patriotism kind of feeling of our country.
Patriotism is a good word.
Fighting. Yeah. And getting back into fighting for our country, because right now we're just letting too much sail. Like, it's just too much well, it's better than, that. It's like Coke or Diet, Coke or Pepsi or whatever. Well, they're both bad for me, so I'm just going to drink this one. But there's orange juice over here that's fresh squeezed and it's organic. It's not going to do anything at this point. Yeah, it's, you know what I mean?
It will if everybody does it. If everybody
starts going towards the fresh organic, taking care of things, your body's going to get healthier and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what we're doing. We can't keep picking things that are just
you need crap. A healthier state and a healthier country. Yes, I agree with that.
And then that changes and it'll push out those people because I think that's what's happened is it's just become too much sailing and everybody's just expecting it doesn't matter anyway. That's almost like the mentality.
If the voters won't change it, term limits would. Term limits would fix a lot of problems in Washington automatically. They would. They really would, because you'd have to vote for someone else. But I will tell you this. I was privileged to interview Mark Lynch, just like we're doing. And I will tell you one of the main takeaways I got from him. Everything he does from the moment he wakes up to the moment he goes to bed is faith driven. He says, if God wants me to win, I'll win. If he wants me to run and lose, I will run and lose. And I don't know what effect that has on things. He goes, and it's not for me to know.
Yeah.
But he says, I wake up every day. He has a small group of men around him that keep him accountable. Every single day, these men will let him know, hey, you're straying a little bit. Get back on point, because they've all agreed what the point is. They've all agreed the direction, and then they keep him. His pace is incredible. All the interviews and places he's going and things he's doing.
He's everywhere. I see, on Facebook, he's moving and shaking everywhere.
I just don't think he's got the name recognition in South Carolina. Now, you're there, I'm not. But I'll tell you, you got a guy in front of you that is 100% saying, I want to follow the Constitution, I want to follow the law, and I want to make decisions not only for our state, but for the country, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And that's Mark Lynch.
And that is truly what our country and how our founding fathers were, whether or not they were, all followers of Christ or whatever. But that's really what it came down to, is they wanted to do what was best for the country.
Right.
And not and to actually be in service. That's what I think is really what's been lost along the way with all of these candidates now, even with Lindsey Graham, is that it's just about him and his lifestyle. And you know what I mean? He likes being able to, whatever. I just don't see that he's done enough for the state of South Carolina in the, in regard of, just because you get backing from Trump, to me, that's Well,
and so if you get the chance to run into Mark Lynch, if you put yourself
I would
in
love
his path,
to. Yeah.
Go by and shake his hand one time and listen to, just give him 1 minute of your time to him. And it's 1 minute you will not want to take back. You would love to keep that.
I would love to go see him speak somewhere. Me and my sister were talking about that because we both like him. Everything that we've seen, I just, and read, I don't know, I just knew when I saw just enough from him. You know what I mean? And people talking about, I was like, oh, I'm voting for him over Lindsey Graham.
I wish he had a little, I just wish he had more fire. I wish he got a little, I listened to all of his speeches and decided, I just wish he had a little bit more. I wish he'd unbutton that shirt and lean over the podium and yell a little bit and go, I'm not quitting, and a little bit of, that's what I wish. But, who am I? What do I know? I'm a dumb mechanic in the middle of the desert.
You are speaking like that's kind of our brash wanting to get into it. And I agree with you. a lot of the Southern people, they have that very genteel, and like I said, I'm a transplant here. Just, I've been raised by Jersey trucker. So, like a little bit of that, like, being brash and a little bit more passionate.
Right.
Sometimes Southerners need to do that because there is becoming so much of a transplant state as well here. They need to see a little bit more passion. And I agree with you, instead of being so like, buttoned up.
Now you don't get out on the streets filming like some
no.
some people do, but you
Yeah.
did a little bit. You went to a No Kings. You were looking for that No Kings. Tell me
Did.
about that.
Actually, I don't do that too often due to the fact that me and my mother were actually talking about that this morning. If I knew I had somebody kind of like with me in at that moment, that I guarantee like a man with me just in case, anything were
Sure.
to, happen, because people are
Yeah.
crazy. But I did have my brother-in-law. They were in front walking, and my sister. So I knew I was pretty much in a good space with that.
Right.
My brother-in-law was in there. So we went there, and it was funny because we were like, well, let's go see what's going on downtown Greenville. And
Right.
of course, there they were, and they were yeah, that was interesting. That was an interesting thing. The signs, wow. I was more just shocked that many people were there, but the energy wasn't there. It was almost like it just felt like people hanging out. I don't even know if they knew what they were doing half the
Well,
time.
some of them, they've had a lot of people, a lot of YouTubers have gone around to these protests and said, "Why are you here? What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And about the deepest they can go is say, "Well, we're here opposing fascism." All right, what's fascism? Go look
Exactly.
it up, because they don't know. They don't know why
Yeah.
they're there unless
No.
paid protesters need a leader on site to rouse
Yes.
everybody up. And without
Yes.
that, you kind of get lost. You're like, well, I got my sign and I know I'm
That's
angry about something. I just don't know what.
Yes. They were just like, that's what I mean. Like there were a lot of people. I mean, and I guess I don't know, maybe a couple of, maybe 1,000, you know what I mean? For
Yeah.
downtown, maybe. But the energy wasn't there. There was no energy of this feeling of like there was like you said, like, yeah, we're going to do this. And we have a common goal
Oh,
besides
yeah.
what you
When
just
you
said.
when you
Yeah.
go to a rally where there's energy, you feel it before you even get there. The crowd
Yep.
is murmuring loud and people are
Yes.
stomping and they're
Yes.
anxious for something to happen. Yeah, no,
Yes.
I
When
know
we
what
went
those are like.
When we went to Stop the Steal in November of 2019 in Washington, D.C., me and my friends went there, my sister, and the energy was there. It was a common goal. You knew what was happening. There was thousands of people in the streets of
Right.
DC, and everybody was moving in unison. Whereas with this, when I went there, it was more of a disjointed feeling. Just kind of like they were hanging out. Like I said, there wasn't
Yeah.
like this a true movement. Some people were talking with bullhorns. I could hear that, over, there. And then I put that next to when I went to the Stop the Steal one, where there was a clear areas. This is where a person's speaking and people
Sure.
are listening.
Right.
Over
A little
here,
more
it was-
organized. Yeah.
Yes, this was very chaotic, but like you said, it didn't seem like they knew what they were doing. The signs, to me, the signs were comical. No kings, because I'm like, okay, then you talking and you could hear, them talking, and they're like, yeah, we just need more, more restrictions for this kind of thing. While they're over there with a no king sign. And I'm thinking, do you guys even know what a king is?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking if we had a king, like again, like no history lesson, like if we truly had a king, you guys would be rounded up. Hello.
I was just going to say that as I'd whisper to them, aren't you worried the king is going to show up and shut this down? I
Yeah.
mean, you don't have any rights if he's a king. He can
Yeah.
do what he wants.
I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, like, why don't you look up the history of Bloody Mary, guys? I mean, like, if you just being, a Protestant got you, you know what I
Right.
mean? You couldn't say boo about your leader at all before you were like rounded up. You couldn't say, I don't like the king.
Right.
That was called, what's the word? That was heresy. So for them to be over there sitting there and just like saying that we live under a fascist, they don't even know, like you said, when they say, you look it up. But I'm like, no, I'm asking you.
Because they don't know why
you have the
there.
sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have the sign.
You made
me.
the sign.
Yeah.
I'm sure you had to look it up in the dictionary to spell it right. So what was the definition while you were there?
Oh, or it's not spelled correctly. I do love that one. That one was a fun. My mom was saying that. She's like, some of them don't even have the right spelling on their sign, and they're out there. Yeah, so maybe.
Well, where do you see your channel going from here? Because when you get something solid, you try to keep it.
Yeah.
You don't want to change it, but you don't want it to let it be repetitive and stale forever. You look for new things. What are you ever thinking about where you're going to be, or do you consider where you're going to be and how long you're going to do this?
That's kind of where I'm at right now. It's really great that you mentioned that. Is there's a slight possible pivot.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean I'm going to stop the news, obviously.
Sure.
That's always going to be there. But like you said, what's, next and where, and I would like to see the channel grow. Obviously, it's been a labor of love, for many years. So no, it's something that'll continue. I wonder if I should, I've thought about, getting back into writing, bringing some of that into it again. I've thought about podcasting, more a little bit to kind of expand on some of my thoughts.
Right.
But I'm not, but at the same time, I don't like doing things by myself. I'm more of a collaborative, and I like to talk to somebody over stories and having things, instead of just me. That's no fun. I don't find that to be fun. That's just me. If I could find somebody to banter with, you know what I mean? While we're talking about stories, like two enthusiastic thumbs up, I would be all for it. But I am thinking about that now. That is something that what should our next goal be? What should we do next on the page? What should we start honing in? Because the page was started for the very reasons, and it's really exceeded those goals of being able to share the news, and those things are solid. But now what is the next mountain? You know what I mean? Like, we got the news.
And you've got your core. You have that news, so you keep doing that. There's your base. Now you can try other things, and if they don't work, you can pull back to your base and try something else. Yeah,
exactly.
I like
so what else can we do? And that's kind of what I'm trying to, see. And I'm testing, I guess, in some ways, to seeing what people are interested in. At this time, what more do you guys like? What are your thoughts on things? What else do we want to add? So it's just testing certain things like gun rights, maybe some throwing that in there a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you ever decide to do, when someone says podcast, that sounds very regimented. Okay, you're going to show up every week, every Thursday or every Friday. Yeah. But if you say interviews, those can just come and go at your leisure. If you ever decide to do any banter, you ever decide to talk about stuff like that, I would be happy to be on your program.
I would love.
If you ever wanted to do that, you just call me up and set up a time, and I will make time for you, and we can just talk about whatever you want. But if there's anything that I can do to help you, let me know.
Oh, I'm going to be asking you, Mark, because I was thinking, I don't even know how to begin. You know what I mean? That whole.
Yeah.
It's one thing to look at, like you said, starting a YouTube, you know what I mean? Or whatever. And I've asked people, they're like, oh, Google it. And I'm like, listen, I'm the queen of Googling. Trust me. I can Google with the best of them.
Yeah.
But with a that is different. They're like, oh, you got to start it on Spotify. You got to do Apple, yada, yada. And I'm like,
we have made so many mistakes that I will be happy to share with you what has worked and not worked for us. Also, whatever you try to pivot to, I will give you one little small piece of encouragement here.
I want that, please.
We learned early on, we've tried a lot of different things, and they didn't work, and we cut them out because it didn't seem to be taking hold. But one thing we learned is you have to try them for a long time. We did a certain show, and we said, okay, let's try this weekdays at 11. We'll see if there's an audience in the middle of America, the middle of the day. We did it for 4 months. And it's just like, okay, we've given it a solid try. And we were consistent. We showed up. This isn't working. And we moved on to something else. We changed it.
Okay.
But that was something that was taught to me. Promote it, give it time to get a hook in. Don't just try it for 2 or 3 episodes, and if it doesn't catch on, you're done. It's a lot different when you're doing something longer form or longer, even if it's in a podcast form or an interview form, than a 1 minute or 2 minute video. Those can catch on pretty quick and you can get a big following as people scroll. The other side is much different. You have to really put in the time, even when nobody's listening, nobody's following, and nobody's watching. You're going to keep doing it for 3 or 4 months, and that gives you a better reading. That's a fair attempt, because you don't know. Yes. They do catch on later on some of those. It's very hard to get something viral.
It does. It's true.
Whatever you decide to pivot to, don't give up, even if it shows nothing on there for a while. Keep going. Let's see. That's what I would suggest.
And that's what I want. And exactly. I thank you. That is like great advice, because like I'm not saying like I'm going to stop news, but I want to add we're multifaceted people, right. And there's so many other interesting parts of the news, or not even news, but culture things out there that are just fascinating, that I would love to kind of start, try
it. And like I said, keep going at it. And I'll tell you another thing that helps too, that someone brought up, is that everyone is used to your brand and what you're doing right now. If you're going to add something to it, call it something. And I don't know what to call it. I don't know what you're doing, but just go,
that's true.
Call it a little title up in the corner that stays there, like in red lettering, like, oh, this is one of those videos. This is the new thing she's doing.
Yes.
It separates it, and people know what they're looking at. It also allows them to scroll. Makes sense. They don't like it, they can move on. If they do like it, they know to keep their finger off the screen because they want to see what you're doing. It's just,
that's a good idea. So it keeps it separate. Yeah.
Yes. So they know what they're looking at right when it comes on the screen. If whatever new venture you were doing started with a light bulb in the right corner, for whatever reason, you put a little cartoon light bulb up there on every one of them, and you did it for 3 months solid to see how it's going to work, everyone's going to know the light bulb. They're going to associate that with your new thing right away. It gets their mindset for it. That was not from me. That was from someone smarter than me.
No, you're done. But it's smart when, you know what I mean? I always say that to people too. It's like, people who are smart listen to people where they want to be. You don't. I don't want to take advice. You don't want to take advice from somebody who's like lower. You know what I mean in that regard. Well, yeah. And there's smart people out there, and that's such a brilliant.
And there's 20 different ideas that would some would work, some wouldn't. All I'm going to do is offer the ones that I thought, that put a light bulb in my head. Went, hey, that's pretty good. Someone came up with that, and I'll be happy to pass it along. And then you do whatever you want with it on your end.
Yeah,
some things.
And that's a great idea, because to me, it's like, okay, for instance, if I wanted to do things more on culture, you know what I mean, like that, and that's a post about culture. You put that in the, and like you said, just put it like in there in the corner, culture,
even if it, what if it said that, even if it just said culture corner, for 8 seconds of your video, but it was the same every time, people know what they're looking for.
Then they're like, oh, it's culture time.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. And then you can look at it where it says, like you just said, you can look at those metrics and see if it's moving or if it's not.
And give it time. Give it time for people to get used to it. Give it time for people to like it.
And put it on the same day, because that's kind of how my news videos work.
Yeah.
Is everybody wanted me to do them every day. And I found that to be just a daunting task, because it takes a long time to look for the news. So for me, it's like Fridays at 7. That's what I can guarantee you guys is Friday at 7. Now, if another news dump comes out, on a Wednesday, that I notice a bunch of news and I'm like, hey, I can get that. And we can, let's do it. Yeah, that's fine. But I can guarantee you guys Friday at 7, if there's any extra one. So give it a set time. If you're going to do, like for me, like culture, like it's Culture Wednesday, you know what I mean? Like keep it on that time and don't deviate, like you said, for 3 months. That's a good thing. Don't give it a week.
No, give some little hook visually and then try it for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
It gives you a good, fair, honest assessment of how you're doing. It really does.
Yeah. So. Yep. I agree.
All right, little Miss Sassy. If there's nothing else here, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for taking time with us today. I really appreciate you coming on. We will probably do this again. We'll go in a few months and we'll call you back up and get you back on and go, what have you been up to? Just to kind of give everybody a deal. Just so you know, the bigger parts of this, we don't get as much of a following on the interviews with the different channels we put them up on. It's more, the people seem to attract to these More on Spotify. I don't know why. They just do.
That's so cool.
So it just, if you're looking at numbers and going, well, 12 people watch this on YouTube. Yeah, but 1,000 watch it on Spotify. So.
I was going to say 12 people is pretty ding dong cool. Sorry, because I don't even have that yet. So.
You know what's funny is that I tell people this when they're starting out, they're doing live streams, or they do the live streams mainly, and they go, I only got 22 people watching my live stream. And I say, okay, imagine you standing on your front porch and 22 people walked up on your lawn and stood there the whole time. Would you be impressed? Well, yeah, 22 people stood on my front lawn and watched me talk for an hour. Yes. Okay, think of it that way. That's pretty impressive. You got 22 people to watch.
Yep. If I could get 12 people to watch me on my first one, I will be happy. I'll be like, yay, you're here.
Well, you just have to think, you know what I do? We do shows, and my wife says, we're going to get 50 people on this show because nobody watches you on this platform. And I go, then you know what? 50 people are going to get the best show I can give them. How's that?
I get it. And that's the best way to look at it. Then give it your all. That's what I say every time I dance, even if I'm not feeling great. Or if I'm, you know what I mean? Or I just got a lot on my mind, something's happening.
Give them your best, yes.
I say it all the time. No, these are my people. I'm giving it all my all.
Good.
So
that's all they can ask for. Yeah. All right, everybody. This was Danille, Sassy Liberty. She took time out of her busy day for us. She got to listen in. You got a little peek behind the curtain, and that's what it's all about, trying to get everybody involved. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Everybody, it's been another interview. Now you can scroll on to the next one. You can go get bombarded with that Gen X Talks podcast where my wife beats me up. If that's what you're looking for, that one's coming up too. I personally think those are a waste of time, but you guys seem to like her kicking me around a little bit. So thank you guys for listening in. Not sure where you're chiming in from around the planet, AM, FM, Sirius XM, or perhaps you're listening in on the Armed Service Radio Network. Remember two things in life. Number one, wherever you go, there you are. And number two, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. I'm out. I got to go.